Amory is a pretty small town. It's close knit. You form a community with a lot of relatives who know people as well. So, growing up in Amory was pretty easy to just adjust to lifestyle wise. You know who your friends are. You meet them early in kindergarten, and you kind of just know them all the way through high school. So I think Amory is a good town to kind of ground yourself as a reporter starting off, but also learn the importance of building connections with people and seeing how that can carry out throughout your life. When I started thinking about how can I cover the tornado, because it is my hometown and I had friends and family there that were impacted by the tornado. I wanted to tell a story with a fresh angle of thinking about students who were in my position, who were in college, about to graduate, and you hear something like a tornado happening in your hometown, which is something that a lot of people in Amory never would have imagined to occur there. And when I heard that it hit and touched down, the first thing I thought about was my friends and my family. And the next thing I thought about was um, kind of the pain or heartache that they were experiencing. And I just wanted to shed light on that from a standpoint of a young college student who's going through something that is kind of difficult to cope with. So I started by reaching out to a lot of different people from my hometown and asking if they knew of any students here in Mississippi State that would be open to talking. And I found three good people from different demographics. I had one source that was education major here at Mississippi State. I found one that was over sports. He was a football player here in Mississippi State. And then I found another guy named Davis who was like a big baseball star in Amory. So it was just picking out different people from different walks of life to tell the story from a new angle. It's so fast paced. In Jackson, well, in the state of Mississippi in general, there's always so many different things happening. But in Jackson, in the city of Jackson, there are so many different moving parts on the local level. When you think about city officials, when you think about you even think about just residents there in the community, right? There's always something new happening. So it was a pretty big adjustment for me, graduating from Mississippi State, going to Mississippi Today for internship, and then having to be more fast twitch in my writing. It was a big adjustment for about 2 weeks for me, but I think after the 2 weeks, I found my stride and my pace where I was able to know what are the best sources for me to contact, who are the best people for me to talk to on the resident level, and what is the best angle to take this story at that other news outlets aren't already reporting on. So I think with breaking news, it gave me kind of like a sense of comfort to venture out into different beats and to find where I would kind of ease into the best. I think for me, the most impactful stories I have done thus far has been trial coverages. Three of the big cases I did was the Goon Squad. They were some former Mississippi law enforcement officers who had abused, tortured, and some other things to two black men. And they went through federal and state sentencings, and that was moving just to see the victims in the courtroom and how they were processing um, everything when the sentencings were handed down. I did coverage on Carly Gregg also. She is a teenager who was recently sentenced to life for murdering her mom and attempting to murder her stepfather. And the first thing I can think about is when she walked into the courtroom was I kind of got chills over my body to be able to see how young she was, to be able to see how small and in terms of height she was as well. That was also impactful to see the evidence that was brought into the case. And then the last thing that I covered was the Jimmy J. Lee trial. He's an Ole Miss student who has been missing for over 2 years now, and his body hasn't been discovered anywhere. Also, again, in all of these cases, the most impactful thing for me was the families on both sides of someone's loved one potentially going to jail for life or getting a death sentence, and also another family of having their loved one having unresolved answers to what happened to that individual in the case. So you kind of walk away with this weight because trial coverages can last anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, maybe months. But for the coverages that I have done, they've ranged from a week to 2 weeks. So every day for 8 hours, possibly 10 if deliberations go long. I'm sitting in a courtroom and I'm just feeling the weight of everybody's emotions. And I think that has been the most impactful thing for me. Covering trials allows you as a reporter to really be non-biased. It teaches you how to be accurate also in your information because it is sensitive. So you do have to be aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it, but also present the facts as they are. So I think that has been the most emotional thing for me thus far. I think the first thing that I would start off with is getting accustomed to the community. One thing that I would tell anybody to do is try to go to town hall meetings. Even if you're not reporting on anything and you don't have a story that comes out of that, going to the town hall meetings allows you to hear what citizens and residents' concerns are so that it can allow you to think about, okay, well, what stories could come out of this? You know, most people who are going through something traumatic or difficult situation want to express that and get it out to the public so that it can be resolved. So when you go to the town hall meetings, you can know who the city officials are, you can know who the residents are that are impacted, and then it gives you, not just as a reporter, but just as a person, the sense of, I guess, empathy and a sense of being able to understand what is most important right now for reporting. The second thing that I would say, getting the most accurate information in the most time efficient manner. Um, and that comes from building rapport with law enforcement. For me, it comes from building rapport with law enforcement officials, um, knowing who to contact, how is the best way to contact them. And if you have a good relationship with them, more than likely they'll just pick up the phone and go ahead and just tell you what they can share about whatever the case is. So building the rapport is also important, and having efficiency but also accuracy in hard news is important as well. My advice would be to never be afraid to start early. Start early with building up a portfolio. Start early with sending out any articles that you're working on in class to different news outlets. You never know what story could get picked up. You never know what opportunities could happen later down the road because they can remember your work. So don't be afraid to start early, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Venture into new avenues of topics. You never know, I guess, what will actually stick with the public and what will bring like a new light on something that has already been talked about. Well, for me, I come from a more creative background writing. I wasn't always into hard news or soft news, factual writing, so to speak. I enjoyed poetry and prose literature. So with storytelling, don't be afraid of being able to construct a narrative. Every story that you write shouldn't be like the last one that you did. Find a new angle, find something that's fresh, and tell the story through a different voice. I think that's also important to consider whenever you're stepping out and trying to write an article. It's always something just to consider. I think one thing that I would like to share would be to add on to the rapport, building rapport with a source. To elaborate on that more, when I say build rapport with a source, I don't mean just for the need of a story. I mean for any background information. Don't be afraid to talk off the record sometimes with sources because that's where you can find the most information. And they can sometimes point you in the direction of somebody who can talk on the record about whatever the story is. So build rapport for stories, but also for future stories and background information. I would give that advice.